hit the intro.
We are... Hello and welcome to the Albion Obsessed podcast. You join us on the back of our first game of the season where we haven't come away with 3 points. Of course, we are only 3 games into the season, but even so, disappointing. And what a world we live in where we are disappointed to come away from the Emirates with 1 point. Context, of course, is very important. But before we get into all that context, let's see who we've got on the show today. We welcome Joe. Joe, my friend, how are you doing?
Hello, Tom. I can't tell you how nice it is that you're back, so I don't have to do the hosting duties. Thank you for returning. But yes, I'm very good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, man, I'm not too bad. For anyone who's wondering, which I know no one is, I've been in deepest, darkest Cornwall, where there is next to no reception in terms of the internets. So I've been away, so I've had to sort of scrimp and save my data for listening to Brighton games. But no, it's been nice to be back and to do this wonderful job and to welcome Alex back on as well. Alex, my friend, how are you?
Very good, thanks, Tom. Great day. Nice to have you back as well. And I'm loving that away shirt. It's really starting to grow on me. I didn't like it at first. And watching them today, I think I was like, actually, I quite like that. It's good.
It's one of those things where I think most shirts that I always go, I'm not 100% on this one. When I see them in the flesh, love it. And the fact that, we've played in it twice this season, we've come away with decent results. I think that certainly helps. I reckon the reason that lots of people hated the cursed shirt, as it were, was because we just played so badly in it, not because it was a particularly bad shirt. So we're on a live stream and we're waiting for Dagan. So if you could put a hashtag, where is Dagan, on the old Twitter or the X sphere or whatever it's called these days, put that out there. But in the meantime, we'll crack on. This is, of course, a live stream. So drop some comments, drop some love, and we'll chat about lots of things. So here's one. I don't know the answer to this one, guys. So I'm going to flash it up on the screen. Gold star to anyone who does, because it hasn't been mentioned, I think. Does anyone know how old our manager is?
69.
You know what? I think I heard a rumbling. I can't remember where I heard it from, that he was quite a young fellow.
The hashtag worked again, guys. It's magic. Because
backstage.
Dagan's appeared.
Yeah. Dagan, hello. How are you?
Hey, guys. Sorry I'm late. It's become a trend. Okay. Sorry.
Now,
I'm going to have to send you to HR.
Yeah, I'm going to throw you right under the bus, Dagan, from the off. We've had a question that none of us know the answer to in the chat already, and it's how old is our manager? Because I can't recall. I heard that he was quite a young guy, but I can't remember.
Scholars maintained it was lost to translation years ago. I don't know. It's too difficult. Yeah.
No, it's one of those things that maybe if you know, viewers, please pop it in the old chat. I've got a feeling he's 51, but again, I could be totally wrong. Apparently he's the youngest manager in the Premier League. Well, that's certainly news to me.
Somebody should tell us that, for goodness sake.
That should definitely go out on,
I will say, Kenny came down to watch me today, and she hasn't seen a ton of Herzler yet. And she looked, and she was like, "Who's the guy in the puffy jacket?" And I said, "That's our manager." She said, "Really? He looks so young." I had a good laugh.
Can we talk about the puffy gilet just for a second? Like, are we feeling the puffy gilet aura right now?
As someone who owns that puffy gilet, not the exact one that he wears, but I own that, so I'm definitely in the puffy gilet category.
I'm not sure.
In August.
Yeah, I was going to say, why is he wearing it in 24-degree heat? It's just a bit. What is he hiding?
His age, Joe. Clearly,
No, fair enough. Yeah, he's trying to
He's
make
actually-
himself look fatter and older.
he's trying to
Yeah,
fit
he's
in.
going to look like he feels the cold a bit more.
Well, it is in England. Let's crack on then, gents. It's my first time back this season, so you know me. I like to dissect the starting 11. Is one of the things I enjoy doing. We had two changes from the team that went out against Manchester United, but featured against Crawley. That was Bart Verbruggen and Carlos Baleba coming in for Jason Steele. So we had Verbrugge, Dunk, Milner, João Pedro, Minte, Welbeck, Baleba, Mitoma, Van Hecke, Veltman, and Hinchelwood in our starting 11 today. I was unsure to start with whether we would see Baleba at left back or Hinchelwood at left back, because I knew that in pre-season Baleba played at left back and Herzler was like, oh, he might play there this season. So I was a bit sort of up against Saka. Do we want Hinch, or was the athleticism of Baleba be enough? But Joe, before a ball was even kicked, when you saw the 11, what were your first thoughts?
I was happy to see Baleba in the starting lineup. I think he's deserved it. I think he's a player that can give us a lot of qualities, a lot of physicality in the middle of the park, and can also apparently now be a versatile option and play at left back if needs be. So I noted that he sort of filled in there a couple of times when Hinch was out of position. So that's a good move by Herzler to obviously have two players in there that can do sort of the same jobs inverted, if you like. But happy to see Hinchelwood there as well. A lot of question marks have been sort of put around him as to where can he play at left back. I'd much prefer to see him at right back. We mentioned yesterday that it's really interesting that England under 21s have listed him as a defender. So maybe that's the way his career path is going now. And I think people might just have to accept that he is now a fullback option. And as I say, I'd much prefer him at right back, but I think he grew into the game quite nicely today. Cooked a few times by Saka early on, but then, the intelligence of Jack Hinchelwood is something that we hold in really high regard. And I think he adjusted his game to deal with him quite well.
Yeah, you certainly did so. And Dagan, you pointed out before a ball was kicked on your Twitter feed that our starting 11 only included one of our new signings. The bench, of course, was again mostly made up of players that have been here for quite some time. So to come away, I know I'm skipping ahead a little bit here, but to come away from the Emirates with a point, with a starting 11 that consisted mainly of guys that have been here for a long time, after our transfer window, it's looking quite rosy, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean that's the point of view I'm taking, is that we've got a lot of guys with a lot of quality who we haven't really seen and who certainly haven't had a ton of time to learn this system. Based on what I've seen at what I saw from St. Pauli, I don't think we're even scratching the surface of some of the interchange of players. That inside run that we saw Minta on today that led to the goal, I'll point out that he's a right winger who was on the left side of center making an inside run. That's just not like, how did he get there? Why was he there? Well, guys change positions. Someone drugs someone else out of the way, and then he has a gap, and Dunk finds him beautifully. What a redemption moment for Dunk. But yeah, I think to your point, Tom, we have a much higher ceiling than we've shown thus far, and we've played two of the big six, and we've come through that without a loss. You want to just keep moving through your season and doing that. And I was showering and thinking about, I need to run some numbers on what did we do 2 years ago? How did we do against the big six? How did we do against the teams at the bottom? Because last year we dropped so many points against the teams at the bottom, and that's really what undercut us in a big way. But we also didn't do quite as well against the big teams as we had the year before. And that was really our strength, is taking care of business with the teams we should beat and then picking off points from the top clubs. That's how you finish in the top six. Again, the depth, as guys are dropping like flies all of a sudden, could really be a key to us being able to sort of maintain this level.
Yeah, definitely agree with you on that last point. Of course, we'll dissect that in a bit more depth in just a moment. But before we do that, Alex, Hüsler, well, he just came out and said it, that the goalkeeper rotation stops. Last season, of course, we saw a lot of Steele, Bart, and it was really difficult to sort of gain any momentum. But Hüsler's been very adamant that, no, we're going to have a number one keeper. And Bart seems to be that number one. He came in today, and of course, we'll dissect his performance in greater depth in a while. But were you happy to see Bart back on the team sheet, or were you sort of of the opinion that Jason Steele hadn't really done much to deserve to be dropped?
No, I'm very pleased. No, I think Bart is our number one, should be our number one. I'm not a Steele hater. I'm really not. I think he's a great deputy. I don't think he did much wrong in the other two games, if anything at all. But yeah, I mean, Bart is a superior shot stopper. He's just so much more aware and energetic, and I think for me as well, I'm one of these people who thinks you need that rotation, that goalkeeper rotation. They're a part of that back line, and they're quite often the voice of the back line and the eyes of the back line. And I think if you rotate that so many times, you can't get that stability in the back line. And I think, you know, we've obviously got Duncan, JPVH are going to be the first two on the team sheet with Bart, and I think that core three, and whoever else comes in alongside them is, you know, probably Purvis on the left, probably Ferdy on the right. When everyone's fit, when everyone's ready, I think that will probably be the preferred starting back line. That's what I'd like to see. So yeah, really happy, bit of stability, and yeah, that will really help us going forward.
Yeah, couldn't agree more, especially with your point with the back line. And of course, Twitter was all awash yesterday about a certain Mats Hummels not going to Spain, and that Brighton were apparently still in the race. And it certainly adds another head-scratching moment, because normally you'd probably go, yeah, well, that's you, JP. You have to back out of the back line because it's our club captain and Mats Hummels. Surely that's our started centre-back pairing if Hummels did arrive. But I don't know how you can drop Van Hecker. He's just so good. Yeah, so that was another thing. I was watching it today and I was thinking, if Mats Hummels does come, how on earth are you going to drop JP? Yeah, I'm glad I don't. Back three. Yeah, back three. Maybe it's the way. But no, let's dive into the game. And unfortunately, the first thing we're going to talk about, Joe, is something that Dagan's already alluded to, and that is players dropping like flies, because it didn't take very long. Similar to the Crawley game, well, different circumstances, of course, where we saw a midfielder leave the pitch due to injury. And of course, it comes as no surprise, Moderhood's gone, Billy Gilmore's gone, Moda is returning from injury. O'Reilly played 6 minutes of his debut before being assaulted. We're looking incredibly light in the middle again. I know it's international break now, so that's one positive, but how did you feel with James Milner leaving the pitch so early?
I mean, we've already spoken a lot about losing Pascal Gross and Billy Gilmore in the same window. We had a long conversation about it yesterday on the Deadline Day podcast. I think it's just really, really poor luck, isn't it? Really. I think we do have the options there. We've bought well to replace those who we've lost. It's just a real big shame that Voifer's out injured. Matt O'Reilly, as you say, got assaulted. Not going to talk about that too much before Alex gets angry again. And losing James Milner so early on into this game. However, it does open the door for Yasin Iyari. We'll talk more about his performance as we go on, but I think he's impressed so far this season. Obviously, one moment where he should have been a bit more clinical, but it will open the door for him to then get a run out. And we'll talk about Jack Kinshelwood, who can play there as well. I know I already mentioned that maybe his career path is to be a fullback now, but he is still an option there. So I wouldn't be too worried, as you say, international break coming up. Hopefully we can get Vifer back as quick as possible. Obviously, we're still yet to learn how bad James Milner's injury is. But yeah, it's just a matter of wait and see. And I think we will have enough pieces to get by, and enough quality to get by. I hope.
Yes, it's the hope that often killed you. Dagan, Joe said there, Yasin Ayari came on to replace Milner. Now, Dagan, I mean, shouldn't Hersler have sort of thought ahead? And surely it was a big risk playing Milner in this game because he might have gotten injured. And I know that was what some of the people were saying about Mr. O'Reilly earlier in the week. But no, Yasin Ayari, big opportunity for him to come in and stake a claim whilst, as we say, there's a lot of players out injured.
Yeah, and I thought, barring the one chance to possibly decide the match, I thought he played well. Not getting his head up to find the open goal and managing to hit Raya, who was just getting up off the ground at the far post, was, easy to be critical. But gosh, I wish he would have had that one back. But he's a young player growing into the role. He certainly didn't hurt us out there. You'd love to see him capitalize on that chance. But I think the silver lining, if you can see one, is that this will give more early opportunities to both Baleba and Ayari, who, Baleba today, you could make a case is in the running for man of the match. I don't know that he takes it outright, but he's certainly, he's one of the question marks. So yeah, we'll take that. Hopefully Milner's, not out, because I think he's really done a good job for us. You never know what would have happened in this game had he remained on the pitch. But I thought we did well with the midfield that we had. And the other thing I was thinking is, as Alex was talking earlier today, we have our starting center backs. We now have our starting keeper back. We don't have either starting fullback in all likelihood, and we don't have of our two non-attacking midfielders. We don't have either of those likely starters either. So, at a minimum, we're missing 4 starting players. And we just went toe-to-toe with the team that has title aspirations in their stadium and left with a draw. I don't care what the circumstances are. That's what happened. So it's hard not to feel good about what we've done and where we are, given all the circumstances and despite the injuries.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, 7 points from our opening 3 games when you're playing Everton, Manchester United and Arsenal, that's big. And I'm sure most people would have bitten your hand off before, the season had started to come through those first 3 games with those points. Alex, we saw last year Jack Hinshelwood really get his opportunity because of injury. So do you think this is a real chance for Yasin Ayari to stake his claim that once these players are back and fit, to still be in the manager's thoughts? Because if he does play well, it'll be his spot to lose.
I'm going to be blunt here and say no. Sorry. I like Ayari. I think he's really good, but I think once Vifa. I still haven't got whether that's Vifa or Vifa. Sorry. When he's back and when O'Reilly's back, I think Ayari will lose that spot. He was good today, though. As Dagan said, he needs to be a bit more clinical. I just don't think he's. I don't know. When I watch him, when we watched Hinch come out last season and make the impact he did, he's just not making that impact, is he? I mean, he's very unlucky against Everton, just a fraction offside. And today, obviously, could have been a bit more clinical, but he has got it in him, and I'm sure he will score, and I'm sure he'll be a good squad player and a backup for us. But yeah, I can't see him holding down a first spot when they come back.
Fairs. Let's talk then, Joe, about some of the defence. We've talked about the midfield. Let's talk about the defence. I think I'm going to have to take a certain share of the blame for the Arsenal goal, because I was typing it out in our group chat just before they scored about, I'm liking this high line. I was really worried about it before we started playing, because I thought with the pace that Arsenal have got, our high line could be problematic for us today. But it seemed to be going really well, and Dunk, I thought, was doing a really good job of sort of marshalling that high line, and I was becoming to feel quite good about it. There was a couple of times where some of the Arsenal players were getting caught out, and I was like, ha. It worked really well, Joe, until it didn't. What was your sort of what has been your impression so far in this sort of this switch in defensive style of play, very different from what we saw last year under De Zerbi?
I like it. Like with any style of defense, it's going to be good until it doesn't work. And that's when you can pick it apart and you can, blame players for certain mistakes here and there. But if we want to play this way, we have to play that way consistently. We can't just change it because it goes wrong once. We pointed out how many times we caught Manchester United offside last week, and we could have done that again today. Obviously, it's how well they time their run, how well we time our offside trap as to how effectively we can do that. But I don't think we change that just because of one mistake. And yeah, it's a shame that Dunkey missed that. It's a shame that happened, and everyone then instantly believes that Dunk is a finished and washed defender. Of course, people are so fickle, but then look at what he does for the goal, look at what he does for the rest of the game. We've got one of the best centre-back pairings in the Premier League. And maybe I'm looking through blue-tinted spectacles, but I truly believe that. They've been so effective last season. I know we leaked a few more goals and our performances weren't as good, but they're growing together as a pair really, really well. So I think we'll see a lot more really good performances from that back two, and especially when Estupiñán and Ferdi Kadioglu come into the side as well. Really, really exciting. So yeah, I just sort of urge people to be to be sort of patient with how we're waiting for this style of play to work, because there are very big signs that it is working. Just look at the Man United performance.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I was worried about with the high line, I think I only saw it happen once, was like late runs from Odegaard, which we know that he's very capable of making. I think there was one run where Arsenal put a cross into the box and Odegaard arrived late in between Hinchelwood and Dunk. That was like one of the few times I remember it actually happening. But for the rest of it, I was quite quietly confident. I was liking what I was seeing. And then there was a bit of a mix-up, Dagan, and I don't know. I've watched the replays and I can't get the angle that I want, unfortunately. So let's talk about the Arsenal goal, because there was a lot of grumbles from Brighton fans in regards to Saka potentially being offside, and it certainly looked like Dunk and Hinchelwood were adamant he was offside in the build-up to the play. Long ball, Arsenal went route one, long ball, and then the moment where Dunk sort of just doesn't challenge for the ball against Saka, and he sort of just ducks down, and then you can see Hinch arm up straight away, and then obviously the play continues, and Havertz gets the ball and he chips it over an onrushing Bart Verbrugge. Fantastic finish, has to be said, but sort of a mix up at the back. I don't know whether you saw it from a different angle to me, Dagan, or if you've managed to find a replay of it in a different angle, but I remember when it happened, I remember thinking, is Saka offside there? But again, with the angles, it's hard to tell. So what did you make of the goal, Dagan? Was it just a defensive calamity? What could we have done better?
Yeah, I mean, well, first, the pass was really more of a jump ball than it was, a long ball over the top that Saka would run onto, which is what we fear with the high line. Like, you're certainly not fearing, oh, maybe they'll throw up a jump ball to a guy who's 6 inches smaller than our center back, and he'll win the jump ball and the ball will get loose and they'll score a goal. Like, that's not the fear in that play. So, like, for those that are like, oh, the high line, there's the rip, like, that, it was a really fluky occasion. They had several more chances that were born of Saka having way too much space and Hinchelwood early, especially struggling to adapt. I thought, as Joe, you made the point, as the game wore on, he grew into the game, and I thought was much more effective at containing Saka and not giving him quite so much space to work. And I think we did a better job of giving a little bit of help too. But the goal, I did see another angle. The initial angle, the camera didn't cut fast enough on the initial shot to see where Saka was when the ball was passed. So all you saw was Hinchelwood's hand go up. At halftime, they showed from behind, and it wasn't 100% definitive, but from that angle, it looked pretty clear that Saka was not, in fact, offsides. That one or two of our defenders were holding him on. He was on the other side of Hinchelwood, but I think he was not on the other side of Dunk initially. But as the ball was passed, he kind of started a run and then realizing the ball was short, doubled back and kind of set that back pick. But he was on when he started the run and then came back. So, on the initial angle, I can see why people thought he might have been offsides, because at the point at which they panned to him, it looked like he could have been, because of where he was coming from to get behind Dunk, but he wasn't. So yeah, I think the reason that wasn't reviewed more extensively is it was probably a pretty easy look once they had a different camera angle to see that he really wasn't. A bummer, fluky, great shot by Havertz, as Joe said, but those are gonna happen. The fact that that's the only time they scored. I mean, Odegaard had a golden chance early in the game. I think that's the one you're alluding to on the cross where he just hit it right at Bart, but Bart, to his credit, got down. It's hard to be so disappointed in goals like that. You just shake your head and go, man, that's bad luck. I don't know what Dunk was thinking or what he was trying to do. I do think he just got hit in the back and got a little off balance, and maybe he felt like he couldn't go up for it in the way he normally would have. Or he assumed that Saka was off, and so he just kind of stopped.
That's sort of why I was, because it was such an uncharacteristic thing for Dunk to do. So I wonder if he got the call from Hinch saying he's off. So Dunk's just sort of going blank. I won't go for it then, and we'll just take the free kick. So that was sort of like my perspective from it, and I wanted more angles. I suppose that's why I asked you if you'd had that. But hey, there you go, Alex. You've put in here, but it's more about Saka's good play than Dunk's bad play. What did you make of the goal?
I think so. I think he ghosted him basically. The way I saw it was he sneaked in behind him. He thought he was going to play him offside, as we said. But I think Saka was so wily, and I think it's far more about that than, I mean, obviously, Dunk should have tracked him, but I think he was just very quick and very clever the way he played Dunk in to get it away to Havertz, and then Havertz chipped him. I don't like Havertz.
Why not? Why don't you like him?
I just don't like him. Ex-Chelsea, innit?
I know that before the game, Fabian Hertzles, picked Havertz and said that he was a fantastic player, and he was hoping that you'd have a bad game. Stephen in the chat, I just want to say I have seen your comment about today's performance, and I think we'll unpick that once we talk about the what comes next. There's one here just saying Dunk made up for it though at the end, and of course, we'll talk about that in just a moment. Going into the half, 1-0 down, I wasn't too disappointed. There were moments in that first half where, especially with Hinchelwood versus Saka, we did look a bit shaky. I thought Arsenal had some chances, but thankfully they were pretty much directly at Big Bart, or they were blocked. So I think the defense held their own, which is perhaps why it was so frustrating that they scored in the manner that they did. But no, but seemingly at the same time, going in at the half, only 1-0 down at the Emirates wasn't too bad. I think I want to say it's a tough one. It's a tough place to go. But then, of course, the second half starts, and pretty early on, Brighton have thrown a bit of a lifeline. Now, in the first half, Declan Rice was given a yellow card for a late challenge, and in the second half, Declan Rice and Joel Veltman are having a bit of a to-do, bit of a 50-50. Veltman goes down. The ref blows for a free kick against that foul. And then Veltman looks like he's trying to take the free kick. He swings his leg and he kicks Rice. Rice goes down like a sack of spuds. And then in all the confusion, you see a red card brandished. And I think a lot of people perhaps watching live and in the stadium might have thought that was Veltman getting a red for kicking Rice. But no, it was not. It was a second yellow card resulting in a red for Declan Rice. And so he got sent off. Joe, before I talk about some of the fun that I've been having on X this afternoon, talking to some very reasonable Arsenal fans, what did you make of the whole thing? Because it was a bit all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, we've got Andre in the chat asking if we can explain how it was a red card.
Oh, yes. Please, let me do it.
Okay, yeah, go on, Tom. Go on.
Okay, so Andre, this is my understanding of it. Okay, so Declan Rice has prevented a free kick from being taken, which is a cardable offence. He's kicked the ball away. He's he stopped play resuming, which is a cardable offence. Referees have been told to book players that do that. That's what he does. So he gets the second yellow card. Now, a lot of Arsenal fans have said this afternoon that why wasn't João Pedro booked for doing something similar in the first half? Well, so much of it depends on why Rice was booked. Was he booked for kicking the ball away or for delaying the restart? Two different things. So some people will say João Pedro is not delaying a restart because he's going through the motions of his run. He's trying to keep the ball in out of play. He kicks it. It goes halfway up the pitch. So that's why he's not booked. You see that every week in football, up and down the pyramid. Players just get into that line, it goes over, and they're still trying to play the ball. So Rice has not done that. It's a dead ball situation. Rice has intentionally delayed the restart, which was a really, really stupid thing to do when you're on a yellow card. And this is my big bugbear with Arsenal fans this afternoon. If that's a Brighton player, I'm going to be fuming at them for putting themselves in such a stupid situation. I can understand that so I'm going to share with you now some of the lovely straw clutching I've had in my dopamine fueled X afternoon. So I've seen someone say that when when Veltman stands up and the ball comes off his foot and it hits the Rice's heel, I've seen someone say that was Veltman taking the free kick. That's possibly my favorite ball, my favorite straw clutching. We've also seen that this is another really fun one, that Veltman has kicked the ball at Rice deliberately and Rice is just redirecting the ball's path. Well, that was a good one. And a lot of Arsenal fans saying the ball was moving, so that in and of itself is the free kick shouldn't have been taken because the ball was moving, and that somehow justifies Rice's decision to kick the ball away, as if they haven't been taught from an early age that two wrongs don't make a right. And I get that one about the ball moving because he would have had to retake it. But then again, why does Rice, our £100 million player, put himself in that very amateurish position of kicking the ball away? It feels to me, Dagan, I think you said this in our group chat, it feels to me that he's just been baited by Veltman, who's a lot wilier than Declan Rice, which I found very amusing.
Yeah, I mean, it is like the stereotypical, you got hooked, you lost your cool, they scrapped in the corner. Veltman the whole game was doing Veltman things and getting under people's skin. And sometimes you just have enough of him. And it was just, let me mess with this guy. After, I think I was wrongfully called for the foul. He was fouling me and he's just frustrated. And I think probably isn't even thinking about the fact that he's on a yellow card at that point. He's walking away. He's like nose behind him. Veltman is trying to quick kick the ball and he just sticks his foot out. Right. I mean, it was such a small action. But it was an easy call. I mean, you could see the referee's face. Like, you left me no choice, you big dummy. It was just, not using his brain, and our 900K player got the best of their 100 million player, and it, maybe cost them 3 points, or at least 2 points, I should say. But yeah, I'll add, I don't think it was like the game was decided at that point. They had a lot of work to do to get those 3 points, and the same cutting runs that led to a goal, I think we would have had chances to create. In some ways, once it got to 1-1, I know we'll talk more about this later, I feel like we became more stagnant because they focused defensively, and it looked like a lot of the games that we played last season. But I know you'll probably ask more about that later, so shush.
Yeah. J Deep, I'm sorry, it's not, and I'm sorry for this, Joe, it's not bullshit at all. It's completely different contexts. You can't compare them. Dead ball situation, non-dead ball situation, not comparable. And if you're arguing that Pedro deserves a yellow for that, fair, fine. But then you've also got to accept that Rice still gets sent off anyway. So
I'll just add that we're not being blue-tinted Brighton people here. I will say that yes, João Pedro probably did deserve a yellow card, and we always.
And also, if we're playing letter of the law, then also Arteta should have had a yellow card for being out of his
Absolutely.
At the time.
Yeah, but that's the one thing that every fan can come together on in saying that how unbelievably inconsistent officiating is across world football. That is just how it is. And unfortunately, we probably just have to accept it. Yeah, we'll moan about it on the podcast, but it is what it is. There's nothing that we can do about it at all.
Yeah.
In
several.
isolation. Yeah.
Matoma had several of those yellows last year, and I always thought it was funny because he's like, I don't know, he's just kind of a choir boy out there. And so for him to get yellows, but he would get it for, kicking the ball after the fact, or knocking it away, just to give us an extra second to get back. And I think that's something he probably has done for a long time, and it wasn't an emphasis, and now it is. João Pedro, I don't think was kicking it away though. And I think that's a point of distinction, Tom, that you made. Like, he's trying to progress the ball. It does delay things. There's also another ball on the side where that took place that could have been grabbed to throw. And right, it would have been, and it was a throw, not a kick. So I think that's a decidedly different element too.
I think just coming in here on the moving ball thing as well, right? If we want to slow the game down and make sure the ball is absolutely stationary every time we take a free kick, yeah, then you're going to take away some of the spirit of the game. And there's rules in the game where things get allowed because the players know that if you don't call out that someone hasn't completely made a ball stationary every single time, I can do that when I want to go and take a free kick quickly as well. And otherwise we slow the game down and it'll just turn into, I mean, we say we want consistency, but actually one of the most amazing things about this game is the inconsistency. And I hate to say it, but that's what gives us the drama. And that's what gives us, the moments like today that have changed that game, and I agree. It was a dead ball situation right in front of the ref. He had no choice. He literally had no choice. If you want to get away with naughty things, make sure it's not in front of the ref, right? And or out of his sight a little bit, and maybe you'll get away with it. But I think it's part of the game that we allow moving free kicks from balls that are moving to keep it going.
Yeah, I can understand the frustration of double standards, but again, you've just said, Alex. Rice has given the ref no choice. He's kicked the ball away. It's a cardable offence. He's on a yellow. It's a stupid position to put yourself in when you're already on a yellow. And I know it's easy for me to say as a Brighton fan, but if I was an Arsenal fan, I'd be fuming at Rice for putting himself in that situation in the first place. That's just me. Minte also got a yellow card in the game for doing the fake yellow card thing as well. I don't know if you guys picked up on that. I think it was Minte. So it goes to show that it's not just Arsenal players that get in brandish cards for the new rules of the game. Brighton players were as well. But I can understand the frustration. But hey, we move. Declan Rice gets sent off. Brighton then play the rest of the game with 10 men. And there was a comment earlier, I think it was made by Stephen, about saying, like, how much can we take away the second half playing against Arsenal with 10 men? But apart from the João Pedro goal, I think Arsenal, they certainly didn't sit back. They really did look quite dangerous at times. But before we talk about the danger Arsenal posed and the sensational goalkeeping that we saw, let's talk about the goal. We talked a bit already about this idea of Dunk redeeming himself after the mistake or whatever happened for Arsenal's goal. Dunk plays an absolute beauty of a pass for Minte, who, as you say, Dagan, is on the opposite side of the pitch to where you'd normally expect to find him. His shot is well saved by Raya, but it is João Pedro who gets to the rebound first, and he tucks it away with a plum. And Brighton draw level. A lovely little finish, Joe. And Brighton see themselves with something to build on. What did you make of the Dunk redemption and the Pedro finish?
Yeah, I mean, we all know that Lewis Dunk's got that ability to pick a pass and to break lines with a really good ball through. Amazing work from Yankuba Minte to run onto that and cause Arsenal defenders to sort of track back and sort of dragged out of position, and then Pedro is where he is in space on the edge of the box to slam home. And yeah, it's a really, really good goal. And I was just really thankful that we sort of capitalised on Arsenal going down to 10 quite quickly, because I think we may have grown a little bit frustrated. Dagan's already spoken in the group chat about how hard it is to come back from 1-0 down, especially against the title contenders and at their stadium. We do talk about as well how hard it is to play against 10 men sometimes, because they do just sort of put a lot of men behind the ball and it's hard to break them down. And that's a lot of sort of credit to Fabian Hertzler in the way that he will hopefully break. I won't say it was a low block, because I don't think Arsenal were ever playing in a low block, but to break down a team that are sitting behind the ball a little bit. It's been a criticism we've had of managers past, where we haven't been able to break down a team that are quite compact, and we did that, and Donkey did that with the ball through. And yeah, incredible for João Pedro to score again, and he's in fantastic form. So yeah, long may that continue.
Yeah, and you talk there, Dagan, in the chat about Dunk's joy, and there must be a sense of relief there as well, because no one will judge himself harder than Lewis Dunk. So real relief. And you say there was a great, lovely picture of him and JP Van Hecker giving each other a little hug after that. And I reckon JP was just whispering sweet nothings into his ear, saying, "It's all right, sweet Dunky. All is forgiven."
Well, you talk about it's a game of inches, right? We scored that goal as Calafiori was coming on for Trossard. Like, he was there waiting. That wasn't a sub that was made after the goal. They were waiting to get him on to go to that back five. So I think Arteta saw there was a potential for us to cut through them the way that they were playing with the personnel that they had, and was trying to make the change. We just got the goal too soon for him to stop it. Calafiori came on and they were much more resolute. They sat further back. With three center backs between I guess White and Timber was still on, at least up until he got the yellow card. He did come out after that, I think. But yeah, game of inches, right? Like, had we not scored that goal, we may not score, because once Calafiori came on, they just had a lot more size, and again, an extra player back there at all times that was actually a defender. Yeah, for Dunk, hugely relieved. It was a brilliant pass, threaded through. And again, I want to watch it back to see, how did Minta end up in that position all the way across the pitch? That's Hertzler ball, but I'm really not sure how it happened yet. So I can't wait to go back through and see how he got there. Feel free to talk about in the chat who cleared space, who drug a defender somewhere else, because certainly that is what happened.
Yeah, and you've actually just triggered something for me, Dagan. You mentioned our former defender, Ben White, and I did want to talk about this, Alex. Mitoma gave Ben White an absolutely torrid time today. I saw someone on Twitter say that Mitoma had worried Ben White so much that all of his fake tan was coming off. It was, Mitoma has looked really good since coming back this season. And I think you can really see in these opening games how much we missed him last season. What did you make of our Japanese maestro's performance today up against Ben White?
Yeah, magnificent and a real menace as always. His control of the ball is so important. The fact he takes it down whenever it comes to him, he seems to. I mean, there was a point in the Crawley match or the Man United match, I think, where a ball just kind of looped down to him and he didn't even seem to control it. He just seemed to start dribbling immediately. And I was just like, it's just magic sometimes. You have to actually spend time to watch what he's doing, because it is so amazing and intricate. Ben White was, he lost it today, I think, and he was getting frustrated. I think they were all getting a bit frustrated towards the end. Which is good. You want to see that 10 men down. You want to see them losing their heads a bit. But and with the attacking players we've got, there's always a threat there. But I'm so glad to see Mitoma back and playing like he is. I mean, you could just imagine what he's going to do against Ipswich at home, and some of the teams who are relegation candidates. I think Matoma on full form will just, they've got to be frightened, got to be scared. Ben White's a great player, right? He's a great, and he gave him a torrid time. So I'm looking forward to seeing him in this season, and fingers crossed he stays fit.
Yeah, I think that's the hope for all of the Brighton players at the moment, isn't it? Can they stay fit? Just before we talk about one performance that we need to highlight, we need to just sort of come full circle almost about Yasin Yari. We talked about him at the top of the show. We talked about him coming on for Milner. There was a golden opportunity for Yasin Yari to kill the game off, as it were. But unfortunately, he chose the wrong option. I can't remember what had happened beforehand, but Raya was on the floor. Yasin Yari, ball falls to him. He's got an open net to shoot at, but he shoots straight at the floor-bound Raya. I said in the group chat, maybe he's trying to double bluff him. Maybe he's expecting the keeper to come back across, so that's why he's gone to the far post. I think perhaps I'm being a bit too kind. I think he just panicked. Perhaps that was my impression of it. But disappointing, Joe, that Yasin, as I think Alex said earlier on the show, really came so close against Everton not to get that first goal.
Yeah, and as you say, I think slight panic stations maybe when that ball fell to him and he saw that gaping gap in the goal, maybe just snatched it a little bit and got a little bit ahead of himself. Maybe saw the back pages and thought, Yasin Yari is going to be the one to win it for Brighton. But it's going to be something that comes with time, I think. And I think he is going to get time this season to adjust to the Premier League and to be that just tiny bit more composed. Obviously, we saw him take a really nice finish against Everton. Unfortunately, there was offside. I think it would have given him a lot of confidence going into the next games. But he's an unbelievable player. He's got really, really good talent and so much ability. We could be really excited about what Yasin can give us this season. So I don't think it'll be too long until he does score his first Brighton goal.
It's strange because I've got two friends. One's a Coventry fan and one's a Blackburn fan, and neither of them were particularly impressed by what they saw of Yasin on his ill-fated loan spells last season. But then again, the Championship and the Premier League are two very different beasts, and maybe Yasin is just more suited to the Premier League than he was the Championship. But no, he's got a very exciting future ahead of him. I'm sure I look forward to seeing more of him. Perhaps not, if not this season, then certainly next season. Dagan, it would be wrong of us to sit here and sort of imply that it was a one-way traffic in the second half once the Declan Rice second yellow card, but it certainly was not. Arsenal, very dangerous in the counter-attack, a lot of pace in their team and a lot of skill as well. And if it had not been for one Bartholomew Verbruggen, it might have been a very different result at the end of the pitch. Just how fantastic was Big Bart today. Caught off his line for the Arsenal goal, but he's, just phenomenal. Some phenomenal saves in the second half especially.
Yeah, I think credit to him even for that first goal for making it as difficult to chip as he did by coming out early. He makes himself huge. He's incredibly flexible as shown on the huge stop in the second half, getting his boot on it. He's quick. Yeah, he's just like the keeper that you'd build in a lab. If you wanted to sort of, make up the dimensions of a keeper, maybe you make him a little bigger than 6'4", but he's pretty close to optimal size, length, athleticism.
We've got a bigger keeper than 6'4", but he's out on loan, Dagan.
Yeah, Sherpin is certainly bigger than 6'4". If you guys haven't seen Sherpin, catch Sturmgras with Sherpin and Yalkuye in the Champions League this year. A lot of fun. Sherpin is 6'8", for those of you who are not familiar with him. He is immense. Makes the goal look quite small. And he actually is pretty decent with his feet as well. So he has a little bit of the Brighton keeper DNA in him. But no, I don't want to get ahead of myself on talking about my podium for man of the match. But I'm a big proponent of who makes a play that changes the game, and those stops, the game's over. I think. I don't think we find a way back through if they get ahead of us again. So yeah, all with Bart there on his capable shoulders and his capable hands. I'm so glad he's back, and I'm so glad that one, that Herzler sort of definitively said, he is our starting keeper. We're not rotating. And 2, that his first Premier League game out didn't end in a loss for people to go, well, we won with Steele. Why don't we go back with Steele? Even though it's Arsenal away, which I feared would happen. So I'm so happy that, I don't think anybody could pick apart this performance and think, well, Steele was better. I guess they could say we won with Steele and we didn't win today, but if you're that simple, then you're just that simple. Please message me if you'd like to see detailed data. Bart is just better than Jason Steele. I love Jason Steele. Great guy. He's good. He's a good Premier League goalkeeper. Bart has potential to be one of the best goalkeepers in the world, period.
Yeah. And Dagan has the stats to back that up. So if you disagree with Dagan, you can at him on X and he'll show you the data. He's a man who's got the data. Alex, someone just mentioned it in the chat about coming back for Bart, about it's his first Premier League game back. Of course, he played against Crawley in the cup in the week, but this was his first Premier League game back. A slightly different kettle of fish to the Crawley game. Some slightly better strikers, one could argue. So a very strong return to the Premier League for Bart Verbrugge.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was, as Dagan said, absolutely cracking game from Bart. I think, to be honest, there was a moment where someone was in Martinelli broke and passed it to Saka, and JPVH was chasing back Martinelli, and you could see Bart, the positioning there, just readying himself for that break. And every single one of those breaks that came through, and Saka tried to get a shot away as well, and Bart just took all those, just made it look easy. And I don't think it's easy to do that, to get yourself the positioning to be aware of where Saka is and to concentrate and just to hold it and keep it. And I just think, yeah, he's such a solid keeper. And again, we go back to that high line and we talk about the back line and that defensive line, and how much confidence must you have in that system, knowing you've got, as Dagan said, potentially one of the best goalkeepers in the world there to back you up as a last resort. And I just think that must give everyone so much confidence, knowing you've got Bart there to back you up and pull those saves out. And we talk about Crawley as well. I mean, like saying that the quality of the strikers, yeah, you're absolutely right. But he did have to make some pretty good saves in that match. And I think it was a really good opportunity for him to come back and pull off some saves. Probably even harder saves than he had to do today, I think, or certainly ones where he was a bit more acrobatic. But yeah, I thought it was a great performance, absolutely brilliant performance. And yeah, he needs to be number one.
You've actually raised a really good point there, Alex. I wonder how different perhaps Verbrugge's performance would have been today if Crawley hadn't had as many chances as they did, because it would be wrong for us to turn around and say, well, Crawley are rubbish because they're League One. But actually, on Tuesday, they did have a number of really good chances, and Verbrugge had to be, alert to stop those. So, that's probably helped him come back, because he's had a nice little warm up. He wasn't just sort of kicking his heels and sort of chilling out on Tuesday. Actually had some work to do. You also raised a point there, Alex, that some of those shots, I mean, there was one towards the end where I think someone put in a cross for Saka and he literally just passes it to Verbrugge. I think, some poor finishing from his standards today. But you've also reminded me about, again, Jean-Paul Van Hecke. There were some moments in the second half today where, they were. I think it was a Havertz chance, and JP's just all over him, slowing him down, putting him off. I mean, fair play to Havertz, because he could have gone down, probably got a penalty. And then there was the Saka rebound again, and Van Hecke was there to stop it, and it eventually goes out for a goal kick because of a poor touch from Havertz.
Can I just talk about as well how good JP Van Hecke is under the press?
Of course you can, Joe, because he's bloody brilliant. Like,
under pressure, he can find himself out of tight spots so easily, and it's absolutely elegant to watch. I think there was a slight concern when he came into the team for the first time that maybe he wasn't going to be a defender that can sort of find his way out of the press. But he's really improved. Like, if you're talking about the most improved player in our squad over the last 2 seasons, it absolutely has to be him. I think he's head and shoulders above Lewis Dunk in terms of ability now. I would call him our best defender. And
The thing is, Joe, I don't think I'd argue with you at the moment. I
no,
don't think
I really, I can't believe he hasn't had more Netherlands call ups over the last year or so. He is an unbelievable defender. We're so lucky to have him. How long we'll have him for, God knows. But I think he could go for very, very big money in the future. Obviously, I want to keep him, but go on, Dagan.
All right, I'm gonna weigh in as the new fan. I think Dunk has spoiled you guys. I think Van Hecker right now is the better defender as a pure defender. I would grant you that. I think what Dunk does in manipulating our possession and his decision making with passes is still light years ahead of what Van Hecker brings to the table. Van Hecker is good sometimes for one or two passes a game that send the other team breaking the other way in ways that leave us very vulnerable. He often will clean up his own mess there. But I just think about how many balls that are dangerous that Dunk chests back to the goalkeeper in a way that you see very few center backs in the world do. And he does it consistently and ably without putting the ball in his own net, though I know he has done that probably more than maybe anybody in the Premier League during his career. I just Head and Shoulders was a step too far for me. He might be creeping past him, but Head and Shoulders feels like
maybe just a sort of scalp above him.
If he's above him, he's reaching his neck up as tall as he can. But he's sensational. Don't get me wrong. I would lean towards we have a really great center back pairing that complements each other well.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's about complementing each other, because I think you're probably right, Joe. As a defender, as an out-and-out defender, Van Hecker's probably better. But Dunk's leadership and his vision, I mean, that pass for Minter, for this our goal, sensational. Van Hecker doesn't make that pass. But what I will say about Van Hecker is if he stays, I can see him being club captain quite easily. I think that's in his future if he did stay. But I think the pairing we've got at the moment, absolutely excellent. And that's why, we talked about Mats Hummels at the start of the show. The only way to get him in there really is a back three, which I'm not against, because, I know we joke about sort of like, we're not playing that sort of game anymore. It's all arbitrary, man. It's just numbers. But I think it's very much sort of back three. That's what happened at St. Pauli. But who?
Dave in the chat. Dave in the chat. I'd forgotten about this moment, but he's 100% right. When JP and Jorginho hit heads, it looked like JP should have been the one that suffered even more. And he just, you saw him clear the cobwebs, which, but a lot of guys, would have gone to the ground and rolled around. And he was just like, nah, I'm good. Let's play. He's a beast. That's well said, Dave. Thanks for bringing that up. Good point.
Hard as nails, JP. Hard as nails.
Tough, man. Yeah. I don't mean to take that, argue against you, Joe. I just want to lift up Dunk, but Van Heck has been sensational.
How dare you have a different opinion to me?
The parents are arguing.
About him being most improved is nail on the head for sure.
Yeah,
I do agree with you there.
Yeah,
I just think you guys are too used to Dunk. You're like, oh, maybe he isn't quite as good as he was.
He's been with us forever, Dagan. Just really quickly on Van Hecker. Do you remember when Levi Colwill left and we thought it was like the end of the world? And then Van Hecker turned up and we were all like, oh, but he's not as good as Levi Colwill.
I was not on that team. You guys heard me say this podcast a number of times. Levi Colwill had so many mistakes in him, and I thought he was not going to mature. And we're like, oh, he's so young, he's so talented, and he is, but he's still making the same mistakes he was making 2 years ago.
It was the City match, wasn't it? The end of that season where JPVH had Haaland in his pocket basically for the entire match, the 1-1 draw, which was a fantastic match. That was one of my favourite matches that season, actually. I absolutely loved that. And mainly for the fact that I just went, oh, he's actually, technically, he is a very, very good player. And I agree with what you were saying, Joe. I think technically he's a better player. He started getting the blocks in now. So he started putting his body on the line. He really does that a bit as well. But they are a great partnership. And I think, his Dunk's passing, his vision, his ability to get forward as well. I think that they are a very, very good partnership, very strong. And I as I said earlier, those three together that should be the first 3 names on the team sheet this whole season.
Yeah. Can I just point out, Tom, before we go on to the next point, we currently have 63 people watching us, and the chat is going off. And we have gained a lot of subscribers just from this stream alone. So if you haven't subscribed already, please do subscribe to the Albion Obsessed podcast. Hit the bell notification so you are notified every time we go on a stream and every time we upload, so you never miss any Albion content from us. It's great to have you here. So yeah, please carry on chatting to us because we absolutely love it. So yeah, thank you.
Certainly do. And Stephen and Adrian, I'm going to come to your points once I've asked the gents for their player of the match. So the game ends 1-1. I think you can't turn your nose up against a draw against Arsenal at the Emirates, regardless of the context, as we say. So let's do player of the match before we talk about those. Yes, hello, Jason. I'm back. I've been in Cornwall, mate. They've got terrible reception there, as Dagan might say. Reception? That was very American of me. I'm very sorry, everyone. They've got terrible signal, everyone. So player of the season. This isn't the Albies. Joe, player of the match, please.
I just want to mention about player of the season, just that everyone vote for who you don't want to win player of the season, so they can leave.
Please do. Yeah.
Because it's cursed. Player of the match today. Oh, that's a really difficult one. I'm going to go for Joel Veltman because of his utter shithousery. And I absolutely love it. Obviously, he is the man that was involved in the action to get Rice sent off. I don't think that was his intention to get Rice sent off. If it was, great play. Well done, Joel. But yeah, Joel Veltman for me, Tom.
I thought he did quite well against Trossard at times as well. Didn't particularly seem to...
I loved it when he grabbed Trossard and just chucked him out of the way. Absolutely lovely. Sit down, Trossard. Are you not entertained? Fuck off.
Yeah. Dagan, I think we already know who your player of the match is, but tell us anyway.
So yeah, the hard part is picking who else is on the podium, because there are lots of options. I'm always going to do the podium. I've got to do it. The top 2 are obvious, and the third is where I wrestle. I think you can make a case for Baleba. I think you can make a case for JP. I think you can make a case, for Jean-Paul Van Hecke. I think you can make a case for Pedro for following and getting the goal. Dunk for making the pass. Dunk probably drops out because of the miscue. Yeah, so many guys I think that had really solid performances. Man of the match is Bart. Veltman is second. And third for me, this may seem odd, but I'm going to go with Minta for the quality of that run and the fact that he bulldozed defenders and really gifted João Pedro that goal. We haven't talked much about him, but I thought him finding that channel, getting into space, and then just outrunning defenders who are, again, arguably the best defensive pairing in the Premier League to win the ball. Yeah, just played like a man possessed. Really, really enjoying his effort. So I'm going to put him at the third tier of the podium. Bronze medal.
Very good. Alex, man of the match, please.
Yeah, on my podium. No, I'm not going to do a podium. I'm going to leave that to Dagan. I'm a one-man man. For me, John Paul Van Hecke was the player of the match. I think it's good. I think we should probably try and count up how many times I say this season, because I stand that man. It's going to be very hard for anyone to persuade me he's not going to be man of the season as well. So I know we're only 3 games in, but yeah, absolutely brilliant.
What about you, Tom? Who's your man of the match?
Yeah.
Mine would. I don't have a podium as such. Mine's between Bart and Van Hecke, because I just Van Hecke, when we were talking about him, about how he's the Havertz and then Saka, I really went, oh God, he's just so good, isn't he? And it reminded me of just how good he is. But it's like Dagan says, without those stops from Bart, that's a very different game. And I like Steele, but I don't know if he makes those same stops. So I'm going to go with Bart, because even though they were down to 10, they still caused us, problems at times. So I've got to say that, Bart's man of the match. Referee deserves a shout out. Come on, man. Come on. Your boy just kicked the ball away. You've just got to just accept it. Your boy got booked for a bookable offence.
I think that's Mikel Arteta under a false name.
Come on
Albion Obsessed podcast to have a moan at us about it. Come on, Mikel, reveal yourself.
It's okay. This is a safe space. So now we've done player of the season. I don't know, again, the player of the match. I'm going to jump back to these two comments. First one was from Stephen. Podcast 4. Do you think we have enough in midfield with all of our injuries? And what is going on with Gruda? So let's talk about the injuries to start with. We've got Matt Pfeiffer, who's injured. We've also got Matt O'Reilly, who's long-term injured. We don't know when he's going to come back. Perhaps sort of like, I would say December time. I know that's probably maybe a bit late on than perhaps some fans might expect, given the time window that we have been given. But when he's back up to speed, it could be, the festive period we see him. And now Milner, of course, injured with hamstring issue, I believe, but we're not sure as of yet how severe that is. So that leaves in midfield, as it stands, Baleba, Ayari, and then Hinchelwood, who's playing as a defender. So, and Moda, and Jakob Moda, who's returning from injury as well. So yeah, it's a different one. I was very anti Billy Gilmour leaving, but I'm not going to be one of those people that's like, well, look what happened. Milner's now injured. Billy, the club shouldn't have let Billy go, because I'm not that guy. But the club shouldn't have let Billy go because I love Billy Gilmour. That's why they shouldn't have let him go, for no other reason than I love him. Billy Clifford Gilmour. It's a tough one for me. Alex, do you think we're light in midfield? Do you think the club should have done more to bring in another midfielder? I know it was like yesterday's news, but there was this chat about us bringing in this young lad from Sheffield United. What do you think? Are we light, or we just have to sort of get on with it?
Arbasta. Yeah, I would have liked to bring in Arbasta. That would have been a signing I could have got behind, even if we just kept him till January and put him back on loan or something. I don't know. I think we'll be fine. I think we've gone through a season of putting together players and in bits. And I think last season I was making a joke in the chat about, maybe we just build a Frankenstein player out of all the parts that we've got lying around. So I think we're fine. I think we're absolutely fine. I think Ayari will, and Baleba, Hinchelwood as well. We've got 10 days now as well, like 10 days to get ourselves back together, get some players back. I think the news, Pfeiffer should be back, I think, definitely, right? I think it wasn't a big injury from what I heard. I don't know. And O'Reilly obviously going to be out for several months, probably. So we're not going to see him back until maybe not even until after Christmas. And then you've got, we'll have to see what happens with Milner, and then Hinch as well can fit in there as well. As you said, I think we'll be okay. I think we'll be absolutely fine. We just can't see these things happening during the transfer window. And we could have reacted. We could have bought someone. It probably would have cost us absolutely top dollar. And, I think we're good. I think we're good.
Yeah, I think what I found quite strange, and anyone feel free to chip in chat as well, our stance on Billy Gilmour reportedly changed very quickly in 24 hours, because apparently after the Matt O'Reilly injury, we were like, nope, we're not selling him. And then it was, yep, we're selling him. So I found that a tad
I think
peculiar.
that comes with the demand of the player. I think Brighton are very much a club where if Billy Gilmour is saying, no, I want to leave, I want to join Napoli, that if the price is right, which we did raise our asking price, was reported. I know.
Can I just say that asking price is ridiculous?
Yeah, absolutely. It's still not ideal.
More money than Billy Gilmour, and that is unacceptable.
Yeah, it's not an ideal asking price at all. But if Billy wants to go, if he wants to go and play Champions League football,
but Joe, I want him to stay because I like Billy Gilmour.
Well, he's already in Naples eating pizza, Tom. Just accept it.
Damn you, William Clifford Gilmour, you broke my heart. Dagan, you mentioned in the chat earlier that you would not be surprised if we were nursing some of these injuries to prevent players going on international duty. Do you think the club would do such a thing? Hypothetically, of course.
I don't know. I mean, I think especially with the sort of mystery injuries that we haven't heard a lot about that just picked up a knock in training for guys that maybe we felt like, hey, well, they're not ready anyway. Sure, it'd be nice to have them for an extra 10 days or so to get fully fit. We want them in their best condition. Let's keep them home. Yeah.
I agree. We don't want a situation where we've seen it in the past. Players go out international duty and come back injured. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't Evan Ferguson away on international duty?
I have no idea.
Let us know in the chat if Evan Ferguson is away. I swear I read it somewhere he was away, and that really baffles me because surely he's not fit. Surely he's not fit to play. In which case, why? Why? Because he is one of the players that will undoubtedly play for the Republic of Ireland, come back crocked. Because I'm sure that's what happened this time.
You 100% know that he's going to go play for Ireland and get injured. And it will be against England.
Oh, yeah? We're playing them, aren't we?
Yeah. So there you go.
About that.
Yeah. Interesting dilemma to have. But yeah, maybe Ferdy's injury is just to keep him here with us to learn the ways. But no, there you go. So yeah, 10-day break now, international break. The players get a chance to, I suppose, rest, relax. The new signings get a chance to bed themselves in, which is really beneficial. And of course, it gives people like Pervis Estupiñán, Igor, Ferguson, Enciso back into the fold, back after their injuries, which can only be a good thing. But the big news here is that Brighton are 3 games into the season and are unbeaten. And I think you've just got to take that where you can. So thank you very much to Joe, Dagan and Alex for joining me this evening. Thank you, viewers and chatters in the chat. Thank you for all your comments as the show has gone on. It's been really great to chat to you. It's great to be back on the Albion Obsessed, and Sod's Law, it's now a 10-day break. But we'll see you again very soon, I'm sure. All that's left to say is don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content if you haven't done so already. And we will see you next time, wherever you may be, whenever you may be. Take care.